There's a new leader in town, if only temporary, and the race for playoff places intensifies, and so does the fight against relegation. We'll cover it all in this week's episode of the ASMG Back Pass podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the ASMG Back Pass podcast. I'll give you some hot takes from this past weekend of action in the UPSL Georgia Premier Division, and we can get right into the results, starting with Saturday's games. Now, the first game is going to be North Georgia United, who were hosting Vino Tinto Atlanta. Both teams are solidly in the playoff places with home field advantage still a possibility. Both teams are vastly improved over last season. For Vino Tinto, for all intents and purposes, they're out of the race for the division title and would need a monumental collapse of teams above them to have any chance at that title, but home field advantage in the playoffs is still a possibility. North Georgia United are a long way from what happened to them last season, which to them must be a nice distant memory for them. They also entertain solid playoff hopes for the season. Both teams have been a success story so far in this fall 2024 season. But on this occasion, North Georgia United came away as 3-2 winners with a goal from Obi Okoronkwo and a brace from Ronald Maradiaga. Ron Rotes grabbed a brace for himself for Vino Tinto, but it wasn't enough as Vino Tinto lose their second match in a row, which are the only two losses they've had this season. Now we go on to the next match. That would be Fountain City FC, who are hosting SSL FC. Fountain City is another success story in the Premier Division this year, newly promoted and now in a playoff place after successfully defeating the struggling SSL FC by an emphatic score of 4-1. A hat trick from Golden Boy Tristan Scheidel added to the goal by Alonzo May to put 4 goals on SSL on the day. SSL's only goal coming from Adini Costa. Despite having games in hand, SSL are in real trouble with the drop if they don't start to collect points now, and it will not get any easier next week, which we'll go into later in the match previews. Now we'll go on to Sunday's games, and we'll start with Georgia Athletic. They were hosting Albion SC coming to town, and this is a game that was at excuse me Lawrenceville in Discovery High School as Georgia Athletic won a narrow match against Albion Athletic by the score of 2-1. A goal from Alexi Ferrer was capped with a worldly goal from Jose Montero. And that's a goal that's going to be featured in the ASMG's Goals of the Week, which you can see on the link in the description below. Albion's goal came from Shavana Thompson. Now, Georgia Athletic appeared to have rebounded from a mid-season points deduction and now entertain real hopes to making the playoffs, if you can believe that, with the balance of games to go in the season. A real turnaround for them if they can accomplish this, but they still have some work to do to get that done. Albion continue to struggle both on the field and off it as they showed up at this game with only 10 men and no coaching staff. 2 players did come on later in the second half or to give them the full complement of 11 for the match. But this can be problematic for a team in the Georgia Premier Division. Poor organization could prevent renewal of the club for the coming season if another reorganization takes place in the off season. So stay tuned for more on this competition. And so we'll go on to the next game on the day on Sunday. And of course, that's going to be it was a dandy with a lot of significance for the title race, also home field in the playoffs, and also the Golden Boot race. So and that would be Portoros FC hosting Dalton FC, and the league leaders Dalton went away to Marietta for this date with Portoros as against the defending champions Portoros, and came away with a 1-1 draw. Now Mark Bonneau added a goal for his season tally for Portros, and Frank Herrera scored for Dalton United in a tight, intense match at Marietta High School. The dropping of 2 points here was slightly damaging to Dalton's hopes to get that regular season division title, with both Kalonji Profile and Georgia Revolution breathing down their necks. But the competition for the division title remains a 3-horse race for now. Potros, on the other hand, are realistically out of the title race, but are very close to being able to secure home field advantage in the playoffs if they can make it to the top four finish by the end of the season. With critical games coming up for both clubs, there's all to play for in the next few weeks. So next, unfortunately, I have to report on the forfeit. Is a game involving Atlanta City, who, as most of you all know by now, have quit the midway through the season and withdrew from the league. This means that the scheduled match they had with UMA FC gifted 3 points and 3 goals to UMA and moves them further away from the drop zone and actually gives them a realistic hope at a playoff place, if you can believe that. So critical games for them coming up with that goal in mind to make the playoffs. So we'll go on now to the next game, and it's pretty much, I would say, arguably the marquee matchup of the weekend. Kalonji Per Profile hosting Georgia Revolution. Both teams neck and neck with the goal to beat Dalton United to the division title finish line. Now, on the day, it was the Revs coming away with a vital victory by the score of 3-2 in a thrilling match there at Shiloh High School. It was a home match for Kalonji Pro Profile. You can watch this full game as well as the extended highlights clip on demand, and I'll provide those links down in the description as well. But after going down by a per profile goal from Tony Tiente early in the match, the refs scored 3 goals, scored by Okini Powell. Their second goal scored by Jason Redmond Jr. And then the last goal that you'll see coming from Ricardo Martinez, that was the one that made one of the goals of the week there. So it's a very entertaining game uh, for the neutral as well as for both sets of fans. Anthony Sumo added a goal from the spot late on in the match. Um, and the Revs had to hold on at the end of there to win that game by 3-2 by the final whistle. Now, this result lets Dalton off the hook for dropping the 2 points earlier in the week, but it was Georgia. It was the Georgia Revolution that went on to first place for now after this result. So it was a thrilling game with so much at stake set up, and it sets up quite a end to the season for these three teams coming down to the wire. So it'll be something to take advantage of. And a game coming up later in the season is still to be rescheduled is going to be the Kalonji game against Dalton United. That could be a title decider. So keep an eye and ear out to the various social nets for ASMG, and we'll keep you posted on that coming match as well as the title race. So we'll go on to the last game of the day, the late game in Birmingham. That game, FC Birmingham was hosting FC Atlanta. FC Birmingham are progressing well despite the many changes that faced the club in recent weeks. A coaching change, issues with the home venue, but still pleasantly placed in the last playoff spot for now. FC Atlanta, on the other hand, need results to help them lift away from the relegation zone. They're hanging by a thread away from that zone right now, and they've been boosted by the loss on the previous day by SSL, but they need to do their own part to save themselves. So now the best of the results from either team, not the best of results for either team on the day, but a point apiece does help them fight themselves away from that relegation zone. So this 1-1 result with Birmingham and FC Atlanta. Birmingham's goal coming from Jose Villanueva. The FC Atlanta getting a goal from Brian Zuluaga. It not the like I said, not the greatest result for either club, but a point is a point, getting closer to each of the goals that they have as a club. So very interesting weekend of action. Some changes up and down the league table, and we'll take another look at the fixtures from the weekend there. Of course we have North Georgia United 3, Vino Tinto 2, Fountain City 4, SSL 1 on Saturday. On Sunday, FC Birmingham, of course, that was the late game, 1-1 with FC Atlanta. Georgia Athletic, of course, we saw come away with 2-1 vital victory for them as they hunt for the playoffs. Albion against Albion SC. Portros, Dalton United square at 1-1. UMA with their forfeit victory over Atlanta City. And of course, the big game of the weekend was the Kalonji Pro Profile loss to Georgia Revolution. And take a quick look at the leaderboard and what that means right now. It's going to change a bit as you'll see in the next segment here, but Georgia Revolution rather, go top of the table for the week on 23 points. Dalton United and Kalonji Pro Profile right there with them. Plenty of twists and turns to come with that. Vino Tinto, Portros FC, North Georgia United, and Fountain City and FC Birmingham currently in those playoff places. Down at the bottom, of course, you got Soccer Saves Lives, SSL. In that the bottom two of the drop, of course, Atlanta City is already out. Soccer Saves Lives is sitting there on two. Need to do something to get away from that. And FC Atlanta, of course, with their draw at least 1 point away from that relegation zone. Now, the other race that we're talking about, of course, the Golden Boot. Mark Bonneau, who scored on the weekend, consolidates his lead at the top of the list there. The Portros forward on 13 goals. Tristan Scheidel with his hat trick comes up to 10. That puts him in second place. He pops up the chart here. Martin Cicito from the Revs at 8, still close by, but it's getting a little faded as far as the time left for him to do. And then a whole host of other players down the list on various totals. So it's a hot race there now. It's, I would say a two-horse race there with Mark Bonneau and Tristan Scheidel. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see how that goes for the rest of the season. And so looking at the fixtures coming up on the weekend, FC Atlanta are going to be hosting Georgia Athletic SC. That's going to be a game on ASMG, game played at Silverbacks Park in the stadium at 2 p.m. If you can get out there, check it out. Silverbacks Park is a good venue for the fans to watch the game. Plenty of parking. Full service restaurant, serves alcohol. So it'll be a good afternoon out there to watch some football. Georgia Revolution. It's going to be a critical game here at North Georgia United, 5 p.m. game. Georgia Revolution trying to keep pace again with Dalton United and Kalonji Pro Profile. They're currently in first place, but as you'll see, they're going to start the weekend behind Dalton United because Dalton United are going to go with that forfeit win. They were scheduled to play Atlanta City this coming weekend, so they're going to get 3 points, which will pop them back into first place above Georgia Revolution and Kalonji Pro Profile. That's unfortunate from Atlanta City and what they did, but you know the show goes on, as they say. So Vino Tinto, Atlanta, 5 o'clock game against UMA FC. That is another game that's going to be on the ASMG TV network. So that game also is going to be at Silverbacks Park. So we're talking about a Silverbacks Park double header there, back to back. Again, a good, if you're a fan, you get in and watch two games. And it's a good value for the family. So check it out. Albion SC is going to be the next one there. They're going to be hosting Kalonji Pro Profile. This could be a slippery game for Kalonji Pro Profile. Albion, for all their troubles, are a talented team and can cause trouble for Kalonji if they take this game lightly. It'll be a 7 o'clock game there. That'll be an interesting game to keep an eye on. Fountain City FC is going to be hosting FC Birmingham. A very, very interesting game here. These are two teams hanging on to the last two playoff places there. They wouldn't want to give up any points as they try to hold on to those playoff places going into the final few weeks of the season. So again, important game. And of course, Sunday's game. There's only one game on Sunday. Portros hosting SSL FC. Tough one for SSL because Portros is going to be heavily favored here. Portros is looking to solidify and consolidate their position in the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see if SSL can cause an upset. But The SSL do have the games in hand, but they got to start getting some points in there if they hope to have any hopes of getting out of that relegation zone. So it's all to play for on this weekend, and that's where we are for now. And we'll bid you a fond farewell, and we'll see in the next few weeks how things will shape up for these teams, how the various races will go. And we'll have another episode of the Back Pass episode. Probably I'll try to get it out a little bit earlier in the week, and we'll see what type of shakeup happens. So take care and have a wonderful rest of the week.